Welcome, guys. Today we're working on moles and clothing specifically for the moles. Hi, Ari. Hi, Emily. It's good to see you. My current inspiration for mole clothing is worker type. As in the office, I think it was Gavin who said that moles are the plumbers of the Redwall universe. Like, they work on everything. They're the ones who like fix stuff and create and do a lot of labor type of tasks. And we wanted the clothing to be able to reflect that, and also to be kind of. And so I'm kind of thinking, giving it a little bit like some obvious like threading together, kind of like how there's like these thicker threads, thicker working stuff that looks like it will survive a lot and survive like the mole going through the ground and going through it, just making their way and digging. So that was the idea behind it right now. And one of the things that popped up in my mind was overalls. So right now I'm going through with an overall idea. Although this is an exploration of some earlier concepts I worked on yesterday, where I had these 4 basic ideas. The one at the start is just this basic, here's some suspenders, some basic suspenders at least, with a basic top and basic bottoms. It wasn't what I wanted to, it wasn't like my end idea, it was just like, here's something to start with. How can I expand on this? So then I went to these thick overalls with this idea of this on the back having having a crossover, and like a button goes over the tail. Moles are Mario. Yes, the moles are Mario. So you had to start with that. Another idea was this apron style. So they have this thick apron with like a belt and bag attached to it. And something that today I'm planning on doing is seeing how these other concepts can deal with having more like pockets attached to their clothing. And also, like, could hats be involved at all? And then the other idea I had is this no shirt idea. Like, if they are the hard workers, like on warm days, why would they have more clothing unless the clothing is just purely to protect them? But it's like, well, this is a fun idea. I think it could be fun to have a mole with no shirt, but not all of them. So, and then this one I was like, I have like these little notes of like, here's these things because we want to have them. They might, but everything gets dirty, so I would imagine that, like, I imagine that as they're digging, like the dirt might go. The dirt would just get everywhere. Like, that's why these clothes need to be hardy. They aren't expecting to be clean when they're done. So I have it set up right now to be able to start on this right here. To start with this like thicker overall section, and like here's the original one. I'm working on another like kind of expansion of that idea right now, and then I also have it set up so that way I can also start on this one too. And like this one, I was thinking, oh, maybe they have some interesting necklace or jewelry, but would that actually be practical? Would that be something we'd want to explore for them? So that's where I've gotten so far with them. I kind of am more excited about this, so I figured I would be working on this side right now. And I've gotten, and when I'm working on this right now, since I'm just exploring ideas and don't want to deal with the colors, and I don't, and the body is what, sorry. I'm concepting mostly male, I guess, but I don't see why the females wouldn't wear this. I'm not doing anything overly feminine right now, mostly because the mole that we will be seeing in this future game that I'm actually aiming towards getting a character for right now is a male mole named Glimber, and that is why I'm focusing more towards what he would be wearing, not necessarily like these. I don't know if the moles of that live in Redwall would be wearing these clothing pieces. Like, actually, I would say I doubt that they would be wearing these clothing pieces. They probably, or they might be, but these are more specific to getting other. These are specific to getting other like moles outside of Redwall down. And thanks, Rachel. I like your last name. It's a fun last name. So on this one, I was kind of thinking about getting some belts in here, which probably means I needed to erase some areas, like maybe some utility belt type stuff. And actually, with overalls, like I have these coming down low, more like suspenders, but maybe this set right here should be a bit higher, which means that this would technically come down a little bit farther down. We can actually add in a pocket on here, like most pairs of overall have. I don't know how much they would differ. It's not something that I imagine that they would have a nice set of clothing for their feasts and stuff. Like they wouldn't wear their working clothes to the feasts, because all the critters in Redwall, when they have their feasts, they clean up. They make sure it's almost like wearing their Sunday best. I don't know if but as these guys don't live in Redwall, I don't know how often they would. Like, it's often described in the books that critters that live outside of Redwall aren't always as civilized in their behavior or in their clothing. Hey, Faith Drawn. Hi, Francisco. Glad you guys can all make it. So Gavin said that the moles are the plumbers of the Redwall universe, and Arianwin, Emily here, decided that meant that they were the Mario that they're Mario, basically. It's me, Molio. Also, I think it was, let me double check, but someone mentioned, Rachel was talking about how the little stitching details give so much character to something. It's one of those things that, like, it's an easy detail to add in, just like if there's visible stitching, because it kind of represents how a piece of clothing was made or fabric was made. if it's visible or not. It shows you kind of how dense something is, or how finely knit or sewn. Like finer pieces of clothing, like you might think about like elven or something, would actually have like much finer finer threads used. But something like this, where it's supposed to be a big, like a coarse and hardy, having thicker pieces of string to tie everything together makes so much more sense. That is the plan, to have voice work and acting in the game. Okay, so I had some patches over here, and I like that idea, so I'm going to actually add in like a random patch here, just to add in a little bit of color. So I have this piece here, maybe... I wonder if, like, I'm trying to think of that, about what kind of tools they might have on their belt that would be appropriate for them. Okay, just some basic coloring. I'm kind of using my green as my general, like, oh, okay, I want this to, and also because I'm adding in the colors now, I want to kind of bring in my other piece. Now we got some proper overalls. We're trying to keep it as close to, like, for the voice acting and the accents, we're trying to keep it as close to what, like, you might actually envision from the, if you've ever listened to the audiobooks, we really like what they've done there. And there's also, like, a speech. I remember that Emily had found a speech guide, basically, to how we should, about how to write out lines for characters. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was appropriate as well to maybe be including and to look out for. And at least at this point, because I can't go and look at right now, because I can't go, I'm not going to go and look that guide up right now. I can't answer your question fully, Francisco, but it's definitely something like we're planning on having there be different accents, and I think it's not necessarily regionally based. I think it's going to be a little bit more species based, but it wouldn't mean that certain critters from different areas wouldn't have like slight differences to how they talk. So I want this right here to be a pocket, and not on this set, but it was, I think this set, I'd already gotten color in there, so I want to kind of just copy that quickly. Makes it so much easier if I don't have to worry about colors. It's actually what I'm doing right now is like, these are not like the finalized colors right now. I'm just trying to get like clothing and then a basic idea of what we want for it. And colors can easily be changed, especially later on. So while the colors right now are not exact, they will later. It will be part of my concepting piece, but with these guys, just not at this stage of concepting. So this is supposed to be a pocket here, And I liked this right as a patch, kind of to indicate, oh, it's a different thing. Bring this all the way up. Now we have an idea of, okay, this is what they look like. I had an idea for another set of overalls, but I can't remember, or another set similar to this, but I can't quite remember what it was. And right now, while I like this look, this one right here, I kind of like this better because it feels more unique. It'd be a little bit more definitive of the critters. Actually, Francisco, the audiobooks are my primary way of getting through the books myself, because I found that if I start reading them, then like the physical copies, then I will not stop, and then it interrupts the rest of my day. But with the audiobooks, since I have a long drive to work, or at least a long enough drive that I can spend some time spend a good portion in the book just listening as I'm going, then it makes a nice drive. It makes the drive even nicer. I've also actually, I think it was about a couple weeks ago that I just went through everything, about 3 books straight, just listening to them while I was working on art for the game itself. It was really fun. Helped me kind of get a focus onto the characters I was wanting to imitate and have an idea about. Something I did forget in here is some of this threading that is not quite visible on this left side, the front view, but it's definitely visible without the arm blocking the view. Yeah, the arm guards are something that's there was an earlier concept done by a different artist that had some these thick bracers, and we liked them. Right now it's I was just thinking, it's that would be fun, and we could totally include them. And I want to leave room for them if we decide to go with it. Okay. Second set, or third iteration, I guess. So surprise, surprise, I have things hiding, because what I did is I copied this set right here and just moved them over so I would have something to start with. Makes things go a lot faster. I'm actually going to go ahead and do a little bit more with this. I'm going to give him a little button for another tie. Now that you've mentioned them, I was like, okay, whoa. My thing started to freak out a little bit. So we have there were some more ties on this one right here. Kind of thinking I want to start a little bit fresh on these. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and erase this. And in another version of this, I have an example of what a necklace might look like, and then it goes down and you can see it down on the mole itself. So I'm going to go ahead and do a similar idea with the bracer and just kind of take some time, and if here is the general arm, general I kind of think I did. Boop. Quick. Just do that. Just move it over because I realized I did it a little bit. So claws. because they have to have big hands because real moles have really ridiculously big hands. So, give me a second. So this is a rough representation of their hands. It's not exact. It's not an exact representation. And of course I can't help but just do a little bit more. There we go. So if that's what I want to start with, I'm actually going to pull this onto a different layer. So that way I can go ahead, not worry about it getting in the way of things. I'm going to do that, then copy it, bring it down. And now these are just not working out. So I'm going to pull them all the way over here. And this is currently blocking stuff. Oops. There we go. We actually have a bunch of music that, or not a bunch of music, but we have some music that is that was created by sorry. We have some music that was created by Seth Stanley that we have been using for both our for both the streams and for our it's music that is going to be used or is going towards being used in the official games. It also helps so that way we can't get like copyrighted by using someone else's music or whatever. So we don't have to worry nearly as much about that kind of stuff. Okay, so I want to get at least at least two bracers on here. I have that general one that was this is the top side that we're looking at the hand, it's not the underside. Well, actually, I said I wanted to have two. I might just make this the underside. If that's the case, then I want this to be like... No, these are like... So now, so if this is the underside down here for two, so it's the same one. Maybe have this come down like this. A lot of this work on the concept side is kind of like unless you have a very specific idea, you're just really doing a lot of exploring and like guessing. It's like maybe this will look good, maybe not. And after a while, you kind of get an idea of what what might not work, and you can still do it. So that way you can be for sure like, no, that won't work. That's not what we want out of this. Oh, this is what I want to do. So right now, there's going to be like an underpad on these. Okay, if I create this this side on here, then we'll go ahead and go. These pieces will come down here. In this case, this is probably just going to be a black a dark band down here. But up here I want a buckle. Or another idea for the buckle. Something a little bit more intricate. So like they hook it together, and that could be how they actually start to get these braces on. Depending on how important it is, and if that's going to be the case, then you want to kind of have this be a little bit looser, or at least an opening like that. Again, these are just some really rough concepts overall. Like I'm having some good strong ideas. Like if I wanted to, I could take these and easily refine them. And I probably wouldn't be using such heavy strokes as I am right now. Like I'd probably use something more like this. Or like, for example, if I was to do this, probably go ahead, refine it a little bit like this, if I really want, but this it's a lot slower. It's a lot slower of a process to do it like this than it is with the thicker strokes, and you still get the same idea across overall. But when it comes later on to modeling, I would need to probably go over these. But right now, since I'm trying to get a whole bunch of ideas out and get them out quickly, I'm going to use just some basic colors ideas to be able to get the essence of what we want to do, so we can get an idea for direction. Okay, so now the top side of this could just be one piece, just like that. And actually, I think something I would want to do is have a little hold here. Like sometimes I have a little brace to make sure that I don't overstress my hand. So if this is going to be the case, I'm actually going to put another little brace right here. Goes around. This would probably go down if there's some pads right here. Then I would probably need to fit around it a little bit better. And again, these are it's a rough idea. But I'm thinking this is actually like more of like just a cording, not like to make sure that this stays secure. So here, so this side could come undone, or if we're using the same idea there, it could come in like this. Like an attachment here. Although that doesn't seem like it would be super strong for what they need. Like, thinking about it, a buckle feels more in line with the sturdy idea than this does. This feels a little bit not nearly as sturdy. Yes, oh my goodness. Yes, they could get a lot of carpal tunnel. That could be really hard on them, probably. So now that I have these two ideas, I'm going to go ahead, move this a little, just like to there, as an alternate buckle idea. You see the mole hands. I'm labeling the layers I'm using. So I'm going to bring back the colors, just so I can get some of this in. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use this brown that was up here. Get the basic shape colored in. And then I'm going to go over the top of it with another color so that way the brace itself is a little bit more visible. So let's go ahead and use this like goldy color we were using up here. And again, this isn't like the permanent color we're probably going to use, but it helps kind of differentiate and lets people who are looking at this know it's like, okay, that's a different piece to it. It doesn't get hidden by the brown and the black. And in this case, actually, I want to keep that right there a brown because it is a kind of different section of it that it does go around. But it's still part of like this main thing. That is a good idea. I hadn't actually put a lot of thought into that. They could definitely use some goggles. Or like some sort of protection. They wouldn't have anything high-tech like a lot of visor type stuff. But I'd probably have to look into the tech level, see if they had anything like goggles, or I know that we're using glasses. We have a character named Jethro who has a pair of glasses for sure. But I don't know what kind of goggles and I don't know if they would have thought about eye protection. Plus these guys have such small eyes. It's like, how much would they ideally really need to have protection for? That's a bad excuse for not having them in there. Okay, now I'm going back to this section right here with the idea that, okay, this whole like armband idea would be on this guy's arms. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, and while we're on the idea of goggles, I'm going to go ahead and write in goggles as a note for later. Because the other thing to think about is that while they do have glasses, if they didn't have glasses, and the thing is, like right now I'm not going to, I could go and do the research, but I don't know how much time that would take out of the stream. And so I'm not actually going to right now, but I will probably as soon as the stream is done and actually look it up. But glasses themselves, like glass itself, it would be hard for them to make potentially, or it would be a harder thing to work with. Like they have some gorgeous windows, but I don't know how often glass was used as a protective material, like in goggles, or what they would use as a protective item there. So I don't know what that would be, how that would work for them. But for now, I'll just add this in because it's not a bad idea. And actually, something that could be cool. I'm having actually some fun with this. It's becoming a hat. It's a cloth hat. It's kind of like almost aviator-ish. I don't know if that would work. And I don't know if this would actually end up being something that they would ever be able to use. Super Mario World is not Redwall. And they're going for a much more cartoony look than we do. And we are. I'm actually going to also write in a note here. After moving this a little bit. Just did that. Goggles. Headgear. here. Really, no, what this is going to be is they're actually going to be the flying moles. The flying mole troop. I like to look at them. That could be fun. It could be very fun, actually. Alright, so before I go too far down that road, or maybe that tunnel, before I go too far down that tunnel, I'm going to go ahead and work a little bit on making another idea for the actual clothing piece, and then do some coloring on it, and then look at it with the skin opacity turned up, or the body opacity turned up, and so that way we can see what's going on a little bit better. So something I liked from this one is I kind of like the longer sleeves, and the longer sleeves can always be stuck right under those there. So, but I'll make sure that I get the idea that they have because in my mind, you can have long sleeves, but then you'd probably roll them up because you're a hard worker. At least that's how my mind works, and my reasoning for why I like this look right here. So I'm going to go ahead. So I'm going to keep this kind of the same thing there, but I'm going to go ahead and change up this to have some threading of its own. Give it a little bit higher. A little bit of a higher collar. And actually, I'm kind of wanting to bring this up a little bit, not too high, because I do like I'm going to actually give it a little bit of a higher depth. So in this case, it'd come up to here. Give it some more tie-overs. And now you know what? Since we already have these things going on this guy, which I could try and I'll do a basic idea of that, which is just make sure they get in here. And I want the buckles. Because of this, I'm going to go ahead give him some protectiveness over this as well. Over the feet. Maybe like that. Which means I need to do I hadn't thought about that. Actually, this patch is not a patch. This one, are you talking about this one? This one? These are actually supposed to be pockets. I was thinking, it's like, wait a minute, I hadn't thought that through, but then I realized, wait, no, I had thought that through because I didn't intend for them to be patches. Like, if you look at the coloring, like, yes, it's yellow, but it's more of a, it's supposed to indicate, oh, there's something there. Like, if you bring in the other colors, you see that the reds are supposed to be more patches. And I don't know why it's on there. I just thought it would be fun. It kind of brings up a different look. Okay, now these guys are, this is a little bit easier to go ahead and alter the coloring of all the white. Oh, because this is on a different layer. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up the opacity so you can see a little bit more of the differences. And we want probably this, but a little bit warmer or lighter, so it can indicate that it's a little bit too close to their skin tone. You can't really like tell there's actually something different there. Oops, I just realized I am coloring onto the base mole layer. That was not something I wanted to have done. Okay. Adjusting what I was just doing, having to redo it again, which is fine. Just on the correct layer this time. And now why am I should be using this right here. Apparently I forgot to do this outline over here. Now for that hat. So I like this color right here. I do want to put it on this layer instead. So I'm making a cloth, or at least that's my idea behind it, is that it's cloth. And then that, because I don't know, I'd have to go and research if there's hard hats or not. But I'm going to give these a red look just because I don't know if like the coloring would be, maybe like this. Just to give it like a little bit more of a pop to show there's something special here. And now let's just do this to make sure we know that it's there. It doesn't get lost. Right. Now to do the side view of that helmet. Like, it's not an exact tri-view, which is a term used and is used specifically to be able to get, it's used to be able to make modeling easier for modelers, but like, I'm not making exact tri-views, but that's because these are pure concepts. I'd want to refine it before I could actually get them, before I could get this to our modeler, which in this case will likely be me anyway. But I also should always be, as a concept artist, I should always be thinking about how my concepts affect animation and could affect modeling. Like when I'm making, one of the things that's difficult about the robes of the habits is that because there's a lot of loose cloth, it makes it a lot harder on the animators and on our technical artists to get them good. Goggles, we're not sure. Actually, we had Rachel bring up the idea of goggles, and it's more of a concept. It's an idea. We're not I'm kind of like drawing it in to make sure it's like, hey, I want to have this, I want to remember to look this up later, see if this is something that is reasonable to keep in mind. But I like the question, Matthew. It is a good idea. Like, it's why I have this comment up here, like, goggles, headgear, question mark. Like, would construction style, like the moles who do a lot of the construction, would they have hard hats? Unlikely, but they might. So we're just kind of keeping it in here, wanting to make sure we have the idea, like, saved and not just like written down, but also like, since we're already working on them. The nice thing about this is that this whole idea right here, I could go ahead give me a second and I'll show you what I'm going to do. I could just go ahead, take my masking group layer, go like this. I'm just going to create a giant mask for just this space, just the headgear. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it's not that I got rid of it, it's that I'm just hiding it. And now we can see this view with or without the headgear and see how that looks. And I'll probably go ahead and play with and make sure I save to when I post this into our online like sharing forum for our internal work. I'll probably post 2 versions of this specific thing, showing it with or without, because this concept, which actually is kind of like just this one over here, but a little bit different, I'd want to have it shown with and without it. And so that's why that is the benefit of using masks, but also why, as a concept artist, it's my job to explore some ideas that I may not personally think work, but I should at least try. So this may be as far as we go in terms of goggles, and probably will be for today, but it will help us make a decision of, oh, do we want this kind of thing? And it looks kind of cool, and again, it might not be what we want. Okay, now for this last idea. So before I forget, I just want to get this little color in there. So after we're done with the overalls, I'll probably go on, I think I'll go ahead and go back and explore either this apron style or the no shirt style. I'll be honest, my basic start style, I was just like, I don't know what I want to do with this yet. And then I figured out I'll try adding overalls, so I tried a new one that, like, these are 3 distinct styles that I wanted to explore a little bit more. So I'm probably going to do a little bit more of that, but I think I want to do the apron style after this. See what it looks like having a couple different aprons. What that could be. But first, actually, I think I might just go ahead and go straight there. I've done 3 different concepts, or two additional concepts from this original one that was on this one up here. I like where they are at, and I don't know if I feel like I don't know if I feel a need to continue this one right here. So probably not. Instead, I'll hide this. I'm going to go ahead and go in here. I want to make a duplicate of this thing, rename this Apron Style. And then I'm going to go, then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this and all of this, because it's not needed for this specific group. Delete, delete, and delete. So now I have a section that's just this. And then the next thing I want to do, set it up so I have it the way I want it to be. Give me a second. I'm thinking. Copy that. That didn't work. I'm gonna actually just do this. Duplicate those layers. I don't need the tag actually duplicated. I'm going to go ahead, do this again, because I messed up the way I was doing it before. I just had to duplicate first and then go through. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't need to have this pants hole showing. I don't need to include it. And then I'm going to select inverse, delete that, delete. And it looks like I did nothing, but what I did is I made it so that way I could just move this over again. Just over to this section. And now I can do the same by copying it. I don't bring up around all of that extra text from my original notes on these. There we go. And now, just because I got a lot of different stuff, I don't need to have my layers so crazy. Now I have my 3 different layers. And they all look, I have the same starting point for the most part. Want to move my title of what this is just to move it up to the center, so that way when I later make a picture of it, or I put this online, again, for our internal use, people will know what it's supposed to be and what I'm working on. And because I don't care about these guys right now, I'm just going to go straight into this one up here. I'm going to hide them so I'm not distracted by how much of it is right there. So first I'm going to start off with, I think, I don't know what I'm going to start off with exactly. I'm just going to kind of get rid of a couple of the things that I was working with before. See if I can, I like the collar on this, but I think this is one of the ones that will be no collar, or at least a different style of collar. So we have the apron that comes up like this. It's going to go around the neck, like most aprons do. Before, the collar was hiding it. Because the collar was hiding it before, I didn't have to worry about a tie, but now I'm going to go ahead and just do boop, boop. Now there's a tie. And I'm going to go ahead and have this come around, and I like the idea of this maybe being... I kind of want to make it a turtleneck, but I don't think a turtleneck works. In my mind, I can't imagine a turtleneck would work, but I kind of want to try it anyway, mostly because I don't think it's something that will continue with this idea, but I want to try it because of the whole thing earlier of it's my job to explore different ideas, even if they seem like they won't work. And one of the things I also wanted to do with the clothing is I want to keep it kind of a little bit looser, specifically for the moles, because real moles have a lot of like rolls in their skin. They have and so I was thinking, in creating the moles, we were thinking, or at least I was thinking about the fact that we could recreate that look of the roly-poly kind of look for moles, not just with like their skin, but we can have like them have like tight skin and fur, but then have their clothing be a little bit, have some creases and rolls in that where it's all like layered on top of each other. So this is, I'm actually going to make this a tighter. I'm almost starting from scratch on this, but not quite. In my mind, it's going to come down like this, but some of these lines won't be visible because of the hands, where they are. Like, it's actually one of the reasons why over here I have a spot that's cut out so that way the arms don't show on the side, because otherwise they would just be in the way of seeing what is underneath, what's going on around the body. So I kind of want to have it be like that. Didn't want that line or this line. And again, some of the stuff right here is going to get erased, but I'm putting it down quickly. It's just about seeing what we'll do. And the vibe I'm getting from this guy that I'm working on right now, I'm kind of feeling like this is a little more refined and maybe more kitschy, and I suspect it's because of that collar I gave him. And again, I'm not ready to get rid of it yet, and I may not get rid of it, but depending on what I do, I might just go ahead and I might take this whole concept and just move it over to the side and just do something else with that collar. So that way I save this look, just so we know it's like, no, we don't want this kind of look. Because this might be the kind of apron that a mouse might wear instead, like specific, or actually this is probably what the cook would wear. Or the type of apron I'm kind of going for rather than bigger a hardy mole. This is the kind of cleaner white apron that most people think of when they think of aprons, rather than like a construction, or not construction, but like a metalworking apron, which is a little bit thicker. It's supposed to help protect you from sparks or from a lot of like sharp objects. It just kind of protects you from messes in general. And so that's what this one I think is going to be. If you guys have any ideas, by the way, like I like the goggles idea. You guys can totally throw them out there and ask me about like, well, what about this? What about this? I can definitely try and incorporate them, and I can see how those will work, and how that will end up working with how it could work with with the mold look that we want to explore. Like I've shown you, I have a bunch of different ideas right now. They all have the same general look, but they have different styles. And it could be that one of these concepts ends up going into it gets used for a mold that lives outside of Redwall, but then another one could be used for the molds that live inside of Redwall. You know what? Actually, I feel like let's do some circles. They're going to end up being rings that are what this attaches to. Yes, moles. Hello, mole man. I'm glad that we can please your mole senses. Don't know why there's this there anymore. Okay, so I kind of like the look of this down there, but I'm going to give him a longer shirt to work with. Like, I haven't actually even like played with shirts much. I've been more focusing on what's going over them. But I kind of like how this kind of just goes straight down overall. It's a squarish feel. And yeah, this collar, I'm just going to get rid of it. It's just not working. It's not, I don't think it's worth keeping anymore. Like, I know I said, like, I just think it's the completely wrong direction for what we're hoping for. Actually, one right here. Because I want to give him a little bit more of an interesting design. Let's go to that. There, ties. Okay, those are bad ties. Or maybe it's pad tie. Bad joke. And I made this like go up high, but I don't know if I want it to anymore. Which means I might just go like this and do that. Pull this front, and let's see, what could we do? Ooh, that's a good idea, Francisco. I like that idea. I think I don't know how to incorporate that just yet. Like, I think like this one right here that has this big like bag on the front, this probably does help with it. But because they're such stout creatures and short, but no, stout is the right word for it, because of the stoutness of them. It doesn't feel like I can really add more. Like, it wouldn't make sense for me to add another one in here. or like another one across there to really get that kind of like horizontal feel. Like I feel like you're kind of getting out with the multiple belts. But it's something I can definitely look at. I also haven't really looked into, I haven't had a chance to, and I also don't think we've decided what kind of tools the moles will be carrying. Like, do they use just their bare hands, or do they use like traditional mining equipment, or do we have to be creative and come up with our own mining equipment for them to use, or their own like definitely makes sense for them to have hammers perhaps, but like, so maybe actually yeah, I should probably go ahead and take this, just add a little hammer, and there, I've succeeded with adding something else, adding a tool. Makes sense for there to be a hammer. Little bitty hammer. Another one that sources of inspiration for these guys, at least early, or like we also, I know that earlier on I said that Gavin pointed out that these guys are kind of the plumbers of the Redwall world. Another source of inspiration is they're kind of like the dwarves as well, minus all of the hair. Our own dwarves, like their epic beards, is like, that would be actually, wouldn't that be awesome if we just do like some epic beards right here? That would be awesome. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep that. I'm going to have to keep that on. I'm going to add that really quickly into a separate layer because I like this idea. But I'm going to have to talk it over with the rest of the team first. Okay. Just those epic beards, they look so cool. Well, right now, hair is one of the questions that, like, we currently are working on how we are depicting hair and how we want to, and that's a little bit, and so the technology from our side of it is actually a little bit harder. We have to deal with that, and if it wasn't for that, then I honestly would have already had like a lot more, like, I'd have more beards, I'd like little goatees, I'd have I would find some ways to be able to incorporate a little bit more fur variety, and not just in moles, but like I think on also some of my mouse concepts from earlier and hairs and stuff like that. But just fur, how we depict fur is actually one of the things that we're discussing. Like, do we go with a realistic look and not have like things that imitate ponytails or like long hair, or like, I know that like hair, like beards are described in the books, well, actually fairly often, or at least often enough. It's at least once or twice per book. But I just don't know. We haven't really been able to figure out. It is one of the things that we are currently in discussion about. Okay, I can't help it. There. I'm not going to make an evil thing, so just like... There we go. Give him a little one. I want to keep it in there. It's too much fun. Okay, so I know right now one of the things I'm lacking right here is some tool belts, or a way for him to have tools. I don't know if I want to add on to this, or if I want to keep moving on with different types of like apron looks or ideas and how that could look. So I think I'm probably going to move on to different overall concepts and then come back and add in some other ideas. In part because, again, I don't actually know. It's a mole patch, yes. the soul patch mole patch. Side note, we could always just give it No. So I'm being reminded by Emily that I have gone over time for what we usually allot for things streaming, and the other reason why reasons why I'm probably needing to stop is because of we typically have meetings that would then the streaming could get in the way of because of the need for it to be quiet in our office for streaming to occur. So I'll do one last thing. I'll add in this the mole hawk. And yeah, thank you guys for coming. I didn't get could do a quick. I'll do a really just brief color over of all this so you can see what's going on. With what I did today. And I probably shouldn't get attached to the mole hawk, but I really like the mole hawk. It's hilarious. Alright, thank you guys so much for coming. It's been a lot of fun. I hope that you guys can come back again next week. I cannot, off the top of my head, I do not remember what we're streaming, but it'll be a lot of fun. I remember, and we'll be able to, I think we're playing a game, or we might be doing some more art, or we might be having an announcement, I don't know. Again, my name is Erin, I'm an artist at Soma, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.